Everyone. We're here for the write up. Excited to be here with you tonight for part three. It's been a little bit of a good
Roller
time.
coaster
Yeah,
of
yeah.
2 weeks.
Yes, a long time coming, but excited to share part three of our paraphrasing and summarizing strategies. So before we dive into that, we thought we'd just share a little update. So I am in Colorado, back in Colorado Springs, working with the elementaries this time. And it's just been a phenomenal week of sitting around with grade levels, looking at writing samples, looking at their beginning of year assessments, and looking at and diving into all the seeds that were planted last year with the tremendous writing work that teachers have done and students have done, and to just really carve a path forward that is already starting at such a better place than they were last year and certainly even the year prior. And so to see the enthusiasm of teachers and to just see what students are holding and retaining over the summer is truly inspiring. So it's such an honor to be in a district that's doing it right and really harnessing the power of writing in their school day. So I'm
Well, and you shared some data with me yesterday, like showing their growth from like year 1 to year 2, and it was astounding.
yes,
It
we
was
will definitely
beautiful.
share more on that. But one of the biggest pieces that every single school in the district has shared is that students didn't just sit there on their beginning of a year assessments, which is intimidating, right? They've just come off a summer break. They're given this random topic and they're told to write, and we're using end of the year expectations. So the prompts are hefty, the writing is hefty, and all the principals and teachers have said none of our students sat there and like got overwhelmed or cried or didn't know what to do. They might have been off prompt, and certainly we got a lot of work to do with length and quality, but the fact that students didn't get overwhelmed. They had a sense of I know what to do. That is truly a milestone to hit. So, yeah, really great things, and I can't wait to do some of our school showcasing where we get to tell all the fun data pieces that are coming in. So, so lots of good things happening. What about you, Tabitha? How's
Yes.
your week been?
Well, here is a shocking bit of news. I have been working on skills focused activities, but it's actually been really good. Last week we made some that Amber filmed for a local school district here in Oklahoma, and it's been really cool to like make them and beef them up even better. I actually did one with my 6th grade nephew this morning, and he had an aha moment. So that was really fun, and just like making them better. And if you saw our live last night, you may have seen us unboxing our 3 through 5 student writer guides, which was so awesome because we're really trying to connect so much of what's in those student writer guides with our skills focused activities so that you can open to a page and be like, oh, here's varied sentence structure on, using prepositional phrases, and you can go to our SFA library and find that exact skill focused activity. So it's becoming so robust that I told Amber today we need to I organized them like a month ago, and we need to like double organize them because we need just an even better system.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a labor of love, and it's been really fun, and it I love doing it so much.
Yeah.
So
Well, and the feedback from teachers, that was one thing this week about how powerful the SFAs are. And that's something that we incorporate after initial training and after teachers get going with HPOP and composition. Then we introduce SFAs. And so this is a year that the elementary schools in the Sand Creek zone are getting started with SFAs right from the beginning. And they are just loving them, and really what's most affirming for them is that they can look at student writing, see what the issue is, and then say, let me find an SFA to work on that. They're not just sitting there saying, oh yeah, my students are not good writers yet, right? They're able to say, oh yeah, it's sentences on prompt. They're not writing enough yet to where we want them to be. What can I go do? And they can find SFAs on that. Or their sophisticated word choice wasn't strong. Let's pull that in. So it's kudos to you for making the activities, organizing them in a way that's just so teacher friendly. So can't wait to see more growth there. So one more thing before we dive into paraphrasing, summarizing, I thought it would be fun to share just from both of our perspectives this week, an aha about writing that we've had. So What's
Okay, you
been
want me to go
an
first?
epiphany for you?
Okay, so mine is going to be a bit of a spoiler for something that we're going to talk about today. But I had a really big aha as I was putting stuff together for our episode today. And what we're talking about tonight is paraphrasing and summarizing, kind of more in the secondary realm through literary analysis. And I was telling Amber that honestly, like 3 weeks ago, if you would have asked me what paraphrasing and summarizing meant, I would have been like, well, take a paragraph and summarize it and paraphrase it. But just like going through the steps in writing with design, and like I've been working with Amber and writing with design for 2 years, and I'm still learning new things, always learning new things.
Me
Um,
too.
it's not just taking a paragraph. Like there's so many ways to paraphrase and summarize. Like you can look at a poem and summarize the mood in the poem, right? You can paraphrase the mood in the poem. So it's not taking the text that is just like physically present and paraphrasing and summarizing. Like there's just, and I think a lot of teachers do that. We just don't call it that. And I think it's really important to put that label on it so that students understand that it's not just you only paraphrase and summarize when you have like this one paragraph. And so that was a really big takeaway for me this week.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And I think for me, it's in working with multiple schools in a district, and then also in terms of meeting with all the grade levels in a day, that vertical alignment piece is so critically important. And so I was able to share ahas and great successes with the beginning of year assessments in second grade with the first grade teachers, and in first grade with the kinder teachers, and all the way up, right? So it was just so nice to be able to say, look at your students from last year, look at where they're starting. How amazing is this to know that this is a whole year of school expectation ahead, right, in terms of where they are, and look at what they're retaining from last year. And just to really keep that conversation going between all the grade levels is incredibly important, and it just helps align the writing instruction and the writing focus in all the grades. And quite frankly, it holds some people and some grades accountable if they aren't quite doing this the way that it needs to be done. There have been a couple of grades at specific schools this week that have kind of been called out, not in a negative way, but in the student writing sample evidence way, to say, hey, this is not aligning with the way that it's looking in other classes or at other schools, and have really been able to talk through what are the sticky points, what do we need to kind of better explain or better adapt to what's going on in your classroom, so that writing can come more into what you're doing. So really a lot of great ahas about just vertical alignment and realizing that writing should not ever fall on one grade level. It needs to be discussed and taught and brought in from day one of pre-K or kinder, whatever their first day of school is. That's when writing needs to start for students. So I'm just really thrilled to see where the momentum goes this year.
Yeah, that's I love vertical alignment, but I just think I had an experience last year in teaching my sixth graders that I had a pretty large group of kids that had not had. It was very evident that they hadn't had like ELA instruction in quite some time, and there was a 9 week period where I would have them record themselves reading poetry. And the first few weeks after reading, like listening to them, they did not know how to read poetry. And I was like, but when do we teach this? And you know what? We really don't. There isn't like a grade where there's like, this is the year that you teach them how to read poetry. But they've never heard someone read poetry for 5 years of school. So they don't know how to read it. And
Mhm.
so we just kind of assume that it's going to happen the next time, which is why vertical alignment is so important, because it isn't going to happen if everybody isn't, staking their claim on the pyramid.
Exactly, exactly. So let's dive into paraphrasing and summarizing. Oh, wait, no, actually, we have a few more announcements. I'm jumping ahead, but we will
Okay,
get into this in just a second.
excited.
Last couple of announcements. Our school writing contest. So there's a little bit more time. This is September 10th. We've got 10 more days for this particular writing contest. And it is poetry. These could be something that's done very quickly in a day or two with students. So shouldn't take a ton of time in terms of pulling away from other content areas, and so worthy of your time, right? So that's
Mhm.
one thing. That was another aha this week of talking to teachers about writing is thinking on paper. When do you want your students to be thinking on paper? And this is a wonderful way to have them think on paper because you're getting to know them and they're getting to have a taste of writing poetry, which will certainly benefit them in all of the other writing genres. So we hope you'll enter. There's still time and there's gift cards available. So get in some entries.
We are excited to read them.
Yes, yes.
Oh,
So,
my favorite quote.
yes. All right, take it away.
Oh my gosh, I was gonna switch my syllables there. Paraphrasing, not fair praising. Woo! Paraphrasing is the antidote to plagiarism and the shortcut to true understanding.
Oh, yes, actually, this brings up another aha from this week. So many students that received a non-scorable, it was because they copied directly
Mm,
from the articles and didn't identify, didn't give credit, didn't cite it. And we saw this a lot in second and third grade, actually, because they're it's new to still. And it's an advanced skill to be able to write from a source into
mm,
your own piece of writing. So paraphrasing is not something that we want to reserve for upper grades. We want students to be writing from sources all the way down so that they don't sit there and literally verbatim copy. And no second or third grader is trying to plagiarize. I don't think most students are ever trying to do that. They just don't understand what crosses the line. So I'm so glad we're tackling this. It's such a big issue in every grade and in every subject.
yes.
All right. So, ooh, let's talk about this.
Yes. All right. So I was kind of talking about this earlier, but when you really think about paraphrasing and summarizing, and I asked some teacher friends, I asked just some of my reader friends, what do you think oh my gosh, not plagiarizing. Good grief. What do you think paraphrasing and summarizing are? And almost everybody was like, oh, well, it's just when you take a text and you like either shorten it or put it in your own words. And I was like, huh, not really, but okay. Because it's so much more than that. Like, yes, that is the base level. I know how to paraphrase and summarize. I can take this paragraph and I can tell you what it says in my own words, and I can, summarize the key points. But it's like that meme of the iceberg where you only see the tip.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like the whole iceberg underneath, because really there's just so much deeper that you can go and really just like hit so many more standards than just the standard that mentions paraphrasing and the standard that mentions summarizing.
Yeah, I love this too that it's not just specific to main idea or the text as a whole. You can isolate like a theme or you can isolate a particular character and little spoiler alert, that's what's coming up. But you can focus on an element of the passage that you're wanting students to summarize or paraphrase. So I do love that this is something that we are really addressing. So
Yes, for sure.
so yeah, one more here. Let's you share it.
Okay, this is just wait, so we're gonna look at paraphrasing and summarizing through a literary analysis prompt. And so you can go to the prompt, which is the next page, which is this is a prompt from Langston Hughes' short story, Thank You, Ma'am. If you have never read Thank You, Ma'am, get on it right now. It's such a short story. It is great for any grade level. Like you can read it with your fifth graders, you can read it with your 12th graders. It's fantastic. Just a quick synopsis. It's about this boy named Roger who tries to steal this woman's purse, Miss Luella. I'm not going to get her name right.
Luella
Luella
Bates Washington Jones.
Washington Jones. There you go. He tries to steal her purse and she kind of smacks him and she drags him down the road and she drags him into her house. And basically, instead of, well, she does kind of give him a nice little beating, but instead of chastising him, she offers to feed him. She brings him into her home and she asks him, "Why are you stealing from me?" And he says, "I want a pair of blue suede shoes." And she basically says, "Well, next time just ask." And she gives him the money to buy the blue suede shoes. And it's just a really powerful lesson on just the way we conduct ourselves, You never know what you might get if you ask. It's just a really powerful story. So a couple weeks ago when we were starting this whole series, Amber said, hey, can you do a paraphrasing and summarizing for secondary through a literary analysis prompt? And immediately I said yes. And we got off Zoom, and then I called her about 20 minutes later, and I was like, okay, but what did you mean by that? And so we hopped back on Zoom and we looked at this prompt, and she's like, well, I mean, how would you paraphrase and summarize like the characterization of Mrs. Jones? Like, what kind of person is she? How is her character developed? How does she treat Roger through her actions and her dialogue? And so use specific evidence from the text to support your analysis. And I'm going to be 100% honest with you guys. This was a challenge for me because I'd never stretched my brain this way before. But once we started this process, it was really cool to see how you can paraphrase and summarize, not just through the main idea or, take this paragraph and tell me what it says. So
Great. I love that. And this really aligns with what high level literary analysis is all about. So when we think about AP Lit, or we think about any kind of advanced kind of comprehension level work of text, it is all about paraphrasing and summarizing, because students have to be able to internalize what the content was, not just go back and reread a paragraph. They can do that and still not comprehend it. They know the content when they can paraphrase and summarize parts of it. And that is foundational to being able to do any other type of analysis of the piece.
And it hits other standards. I'm working with a 7th grade student this year, and I was going through some of the standards, and there's like a standard that's like determine what the theme is through mood. Okay, but I can paraphrase and summarize that. Like, I mean, truly I can. And so it's really cool to kind of look at all the different standards and how can you meet this standard, because there's a specific standard in every ELA grade, year, school, state that mentions paraphrasing and summarizing, right? But there's so many other ways that you can be meeting that through other standards.
Right.
All right. So this is just, these are a couple excerpts. I definitely forgot to put little lines in between them. This is not the whole story, although it is very much the epitome of a short story. It's not super long at all. But I just picked out some things here that really kind of encompass her character. And so in yellow, these are the words that we are determined to keep. And so we've got here, you'll notice the first two mention large woman, and large woman is actually mentioned like 7 or 8 times in this story. I almost want to be like, come on, Langston, you had to know what a synonym was back in the day. There had to be another word, but I digress. So he definitely used that word a lot. And then we want to rephrase some of the wordage. So you can see at the bottom that we change when she's standing in the door, instead of saying large woman at the door, we said the statuesque woman towering in the door frame. And then that very first sentence, that's the very opening of the story. She was a large woman with a large purse that had everything in it but hammer and nails. Did we have an updated one where I did both larges?
I think that's what it is. Oh, sorry. I just didn't click.
That's okay. So Amber and I were looking at this yesterday, and we were like, actually, large is used twice in that first sentence in 2 totally different contexts.
Yeah.
Right? We've got, she was a large woman with a large purse, and those are not the same larges. And so we took large woman. Okay, well, what does that mean? Because I think we all kind of have this idea, like my immediate image is like Miss Trunchbull from Matilda, right? Because she was a large woman. But the more that you read this story about her, and she definitely has, I feel like she definitely was like a larger woman, but that word is really meant to encompass like a powerfulness about her, like a very strong personality, like a woman who is not going to let a 12-year-old kid try to rob her. She's going to smack him back.
Mm-hmm.
And then the large purse really refers more to a physical object, right? Like that is a physical description. It is a big purse that has everything in it but hammer and nails. Like it's something that you wouldn't want to be smacked with. Probably something you wouldn't want to try to steal either. But in that case, we have bulky, hefty, and oversized. So I think this is a really great lesson in showing that the same word can be used in something and have two totally different connotations, be used in two totally different contexts. And this right here is, a great assignment as you're moving into, paraphrasing and summarizing, to have your students look at, okay, but what words are the same and are they being used the same?
Right, and that's such a powerful piece of literary analysis, the hidden meaning, right? The
Mhm.
connotation, the in between the line meaning that Langston is wanting us to find here of the word, right? That could be a whole nother prompt of like analyze the use of the word large in this story, and why the repetition of it. So, and then why does it have all these different meanings, and how do you glean that meaning? So, that's one powerful piece of paraphrasing and summarizing is it leads to a very careful reading of the text. And even if students don't take it to writing, but they just are annotating the text like this, you know that they are deeply analyzing and connecting to the words. So these two strategies, whether it's with our kindergarten and first grade writing, remember about the who has eggs, right? We were all so worried about who has eggs, and all the way up to a character analysis at the secondary level. These two strategies are the heavy hitters of paraphrasing and summarizing. So we want students to know what are keywords to keep and to pull in, and then also what are things that we want to rephrase and find synonyms for, and we can say differently, so we're not repeating the text verbatim when we write about it.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, this is getting into strategy 5 about categorizing.
Yes. So, what was the all right, so these are all actions that Mrs. Luella
Bates,
what
Washington
it
Jones.
I always wanna say Washington Bates.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
did.
know why.
Yeah.
Miss Jones. These are all actions that she takes, specific to Roger. So, like, how does she treat him? And I think it's really important to contrast here. She didn't release him from her grasp. Like, when you're reading this and it says, like, she dragged him down the street, and actually, there is a point in there that Amber and I both really like where it says she kicked him in the blue jean sitter.
Consider, yeah.
So you have this like very vivid image of this woman that is like, boy, you are not going to steal from me, right? And she kind of knocked him and then drags him down the street. But then if you look at the last two actions, like she gives him advice and she feeds him dinner. And I mean, I think we can all imagine being attacked by someone in the street. That is not our reaction, right? To be like, hey, do you want to come over? I just want to give you some advice and dinner.
Mhm.
But so it's really important to contrast here, her initial reaction to him and the final reaction to him, because she is very stern but also kind, because I think you can definitely read between the lines here that she sees that he's just kind of a kid that's down and out and he's on the wrong path, and if he keeps going this way, probably not going to end up, and maybe this one interaction between them will change things.
Yeah, and I think looking at this is a character analysis prompt, right? We're supposed to talk about how does Mrs. Jones change throughout the story. And what we've got here, these are all snippets and different strategies to utilize, but what we're looking at here is kind of saying, okay, these were some key moments, key actions that she did, and what does that indicate about her? So the paraphrasing and summarizing strategy of categorizing is finding those bigger categories of information. How can we make connections between these 4 actions that she does and be able to take it into some kind of overarching sentence? Now, we could subdivide this and say the beginning of the story, she could be described as stern and give those 2 examples, and then say, as she moves into the story or as their relationship evolves, she becomes kind. So this is not saying this is the only way to do it, but to just get students to say, okay, this is a piece of the story, this is a piece, how
Mhm.
can I now make some kind of connection and find some kind of category that it belongs to? So this is deductive reasoning. It's taking details and finding a main idea or finding some kind of connection or category. And this is a critical thinking skill for students to be able to deeply comprehend the text that they're reading.
Mhm. For sure.
Okay.
All
Let me know.
right, now we've got, we're looking at two different steps here. And I think one thing, especially as you work with older students and as you go deeper into paraphrasing and summarizing, you're not necessarily going to do steps 1 through 8 in order. Because as I was working through this, like we did these steps in the order that I did them, because I really couldn't combine anything until I had categorized. Because part of what's really important about combining is recognizing the fact that there really are two different categories of her behavior here,
Mhm.
her sternness and her kindness. And I really can't combine those ideas until I recognize that there's a difference there. And then what do we want to quote? So you can see in pink, we have the blue jean sitter,
Yeah.
because we just, love that. And like we've talked before, even in a story like this, there are definitely times where you see a piece of text that you're like, that should not be changed. That is so important to keep as is. Because I think a lot of times in stories, we tend to just generalize everything because it's really easy to just synopsize, right? Just give a quick little snippet. Whereas when you're writing informative, argumentative, there's always like, something that's like, it happened in Washington, D.C., or the women's suffrage movement. You can't really change those. And in narrative, I think it's really easy to just be like, we don't need to keep anything, right? I can just summarize it all. But knowing that she kicked him square in his blue jean sitter, also a lot of your students are going to be like, what does that mean exactly, though?
Yeah.
Because I've never heard my grandmother say that before. Um, and so you can look there at what we've quoted. And then in the box there, we've got Miss Jones tugged and jerked Roger down the road, kicking him in the blue jean sitter when he tried to steal from her. And what's really cool about this level of paraphrasing and summarizing is that that box actually has paraphrasing and summarizing in it,
Mhm.
right? Like it's not just one or the other. Because while it is really important for students to understand the difference when you're working with, this level of deductive reasoning and higher thinking, you really kind of get to a point where your students can do both in the same sentence.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's important to think about, like, summarizing can be a part of paraphrasing, and to the same extent that all the strategies except for directly quoting can be a part of both of them. Directly quoting is saved for paraphrasing only. But to Tabitha's point, there is this very symbiotic relationship between paraphrasing and summarizing. We want, especially our secondary students, to be able to move between and combine them. And as she and I talked about as she was working on this, that the strategies of combining and categorizing are like mini summaries, right? If you're combining from different sections, like you see from the first part where the blues underlined of she reached down, she picked him up, then she started walking down the street, then she jerked him in front of her and put a half Nelson about his neck. Those three sections it's what's being combined into that paraphrased content. That is summarizing and shrinking down a larger portion of the story. And then the categorizing that we did on the slide prior, that's also getting at a bigger idea in the text that isn't explicitly stated. That's more in line with summarizing. So strategies 4 and 5 are the closest to summarizing by themselves, and yet they are really powerful to be woven into a paraphrase. So
Mhm.
that's why these terms are so interconnected. At the same time, have different purposes. But we want students to see that I do a little bit of summarizing in my paraphrasing, and my paraphrasing absolutely informs my summarizing because I've got
Mhm.
to know how to say it differently to be able to condense it down. So it's a back and forth. It's a yin yang, right?
Well, and that's a really important skill too, I think, especially in, upper elementary, middle, and high, when students are writing essays, as they're able to incorporate evidence. Because a lot of times we do that. We kind of do the symbiosis of paraphrasing and summarizing. And so as they get more comfortable, doing it in these like smaller chunks, then when they're, sitting down to write an essay, take their end of the year writing test, it just feels a lot more natural as they use the sources they are provided with to, write and quote about them.
Exactly. Yeah. So we hope that paraphrasing and summarizing strategies that we've shared, there's more to come on this even, but the ones that we have shared are really helping you see how students can be very active readers. It can really focus on moving from copying to comprehending. I saw that this week with student samples. They knew they needed to do something with the text, but they didn't know quite what. And because of their age and just because it was new to them, they just literally copied what was in the text and wrote it as their own original thoughts, not knowing that they've got to change it up. So these strategies are critical at every age to really help students unlock what is my interpretation? How can I make sure I understand this so that I can put it in my own words?
Oh, yes. So just wanted to give you some challenge, oh my gosh, words today. Some strategies to challenge your students. Here are ways to take paraphrasing and summarizing to the next level. Just like we did today, we actually did a combo of all three of these. But if you want to just introduce it at a slow pace, you could just have them analyze actions, just analyze dialogue. I guess characterization is kind of a combo of both of those. But that's what we did, right? We analyzed the characterization of Miss Jones. So there's ways to do this in a character-centered lens. We've got, you go to the next one, there you go. Theme and symbolism, right? The development of theme. And I think this would be a really great, that topic would be so great if you're doing a novel study,
Yeah.
right? Like how is theme presented through the novel? Are there multiple themes? Or choose a theme and explain, how paraphrase and summarize how it showed up in the book. Symbolism, bigger meaning, motifs and patterns in narratives. Author's craft and purpose, looking at tone and mood. I kind of touched on tone a little bit in poetry, right? Like, what is the tone of this poem? Amber, you said something about how you could do a word study on thank you, ma'am, how many times Langston Hughes uses large. And I was sitting there thinking, actually, you could do a study on any of Langston Hughes's stuff and the amount of times he repeats a word in each of his works, right? You could take any of his poems and just how many times does he say this word and how many times is it used differently?
Mm-hmm.
Looking at point of view, and that could be point of view from a narrative perspective or an author's point of view in an informational text. And then if you really want to challenge your students, this might be more of a high school thing. You could have them look at syntax and diction in a written piece.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is bringing those higher level analysis of literature tasks and really showing that they are centrally dependent on paraphrasing and summarizing. So teaching your students these strategies, whether it is a literal paraphrase of the text or getting into this more connotative and interpretive and metaphorical and archetypal kind of analysis of a piece, paraphrasing and summarizing strategies are going to be critical to that. And I just love to tie back into the vertical alignment piece. That's the beauty of this. We can't expect our secondary students to be able to paraphrase the way that tone changes in a piece if they're not able to paraphrase who has eggs, right? So we've got to have that whole continuum for our students. And that goes back to your point too, Tabitha, of like, where do they actually learn it? Where is the explicit teaching happening? And yes, we all want our students to be able to do super high level interpretive analysis, but and we want to get them there. And these are the same strategies, but it can't be the first time they're seeing it, right? If we are just introducing these 8 strategies in a high school English class, it's doable, but that is a large boulder to get up the mountain, when instead, if it had been slowly passed up, it would never feel like that huge of an undertaking for any grade. So I love how our ahas have come together with this, how we are very much speaking to the bigger picture and piece here of this skill or any skill has to be vertically aligned. And when it's something so important like paraphrasing and summarizing, oh, we didn't even get to these, it has to be developmentally aligned all the way through the grades. So
Yes.
let's talk about
No,
these.
this is just some more. This is again more a little higher level here, analytical and interpretive conflict through a narrative. Honestly, this is right up there with theme and the narrative, and I love conflict so much. Oh, I just love talking about it. not like actual conflict, but conflict in conflict in stories. Just because it's the driving force as much as anything.
Story
And
drama, not life drama. Let's
yes,
clarify here.
no life drama.
Yeah.
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 Looking at cause and effect, and I don't remember what that last one was. Cultural and historical lens.
Oh, I love that. I think that's
Yes.
such a powerful one. So we've linked back in the research here just to remind everyone and just show there is so much here to what we're talking through. And we touched on these more in the past episodes. So we'll just have them here for a quick reference if you want to come back and see any of the evidence behind why paraphrasing and summarizing are so important to do. And just to really end on, again, the whole goal with paraphrasing is that it isn't just writing. It is that it's a cognitive strategy. It's being able to synthesize and make connections, but of the with the content, and it really does lead to that deeper comprehension, that richer learning, and stronger memory. So we're improving so many aspects of our students' thinking when you have them paraphrase. So we can't wait to see what you do with this. We always love to hear from teachers, what's gone well, what you've tried out. Also reach out if there's any issues, right? If you see some of those higher level paraphrasing and summarizing ideas and you think, okay, I like that, I want to go there, but how do I do that? We are always just a comment away on any of the social media platforms, or you're welcome to reach out to us on our website, writingwithdesign.com, and just let us know how we can support you as you get going with paraphrasing and summarizing in your classrooms.
Yes.
All right. Any last words, Tabitha? Did we get it all?
No, my words are failing me today. I keep wanting to like put words in the wrong order.
Well, there's so much to this, and we'll touch more on summarizing because we've got strategies that and steps to get summarizing to be something that students can do, and have processes for teachers to really walk their students through. But what we've done right here, it's just going to be, it has to be done first, right? So take these strategies, apply them to any text that you have students reading, and that's really the beauty of this. What we've shown you over this 3-part series on paraphrasing should be applicable to anything that you have students read, anything that they need to be learning, whether you're a history teacher or you are a second grade teacher. It should, and it will apply. So we can't wait to see what you do with this. We'd love to see student samples, and reach out if we can support you with it. All right.